Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know that we're all spread all over the continent, so thank you very much for joining us to our Traveling Thursday webinar, which is today, I believe, is our fourth one that we are doing. And we're very excited to have you travel with us to Costa Rica tonight. So I would like to just take a few minutes to introduce our company for those of you who have not yet been on these webinars, and say just a few words before we get Vanessa from Bill Beards to share our trip tonight. So introductions are going to be happening. We will get an overview of Costa Rica, including COVID info, which I know many of you are interested in. We're talking about diving in Costa Rica, where to stay in Costa Rica, and what else to do in Costa Rica. So it will be a geography lesson tonight. And then at the end, which we're hoping you're going to stay till the end with us, we will have a question and answer period as well as a draw tonight. And then you will also find out where we will be traveling in 2 weeks' time. A few words about Fly and Sea Dive Adventures. There's a picture of the 6 of us, the team. We have been doing dive travel since almost 25 years. Next year is going to be our 25th anniversary. And dive travel is what we do all day long. And like I said, we've done this for many, many years. Combined experience from us is over 70 years. So the experience and expertise gives you a travel company that knows the world of diving. We have over 40 destinations, over 100 resorts and liveaboards that we represent. We are IATA appointed, which means that we can actually issue our own tickets worldwide, regardless of where people are coming from. And as well, we handle group trips and individual trips. And I know some of you have been on group trips with us, some of you on individual trips, and some of you both. And you also know that group trips can be customized. So it starts out as a group, and then eventually you may find yourself doing an extra week along the road after the group trip. Bill Beards, Costa Rica. I'm just going to give the controls over to Vanessa shortly. This is slightly different than the 3 last webinars that we've done, where we actually had either a liveaboard operator or a resort operator tell us about the destination. Because Bill Beards is kind of like a destination management company for us. We use them for all things Costa Rica: the diving, the sightseeing, soft adventure tours, accommodation, transportation. They can handle it all. And here is Vanessa for you.
So glad everybody has joined us tonight and really willing to learn a little bit more about Costa Rica. So with that said, we also have Bill and Nadine Beard who will be joining us today, and I'll have them speak a little bit about the history of Bill Beard in just a second as well. And okay, so can you see my screen? Thank you, Petra, for having us today as well. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Bill Beards, why Costa Rica, getting to Costa Rica, diving in Costa Rica, accommodations, and all things Costa Rica today. So you will all be experts at the end of this evening. So I am going to introduce Bill and Nadine, who are with us tonight. And I would love, Bill, if you could just give us a little history about how diving got started in Costa Rica. I know you were the first one to bring the tanks down and first dive operation here. So if you could give us a little history about Costa Rica and how you really founded it and started it here.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. And thank you, Petra, for this opportunity to talk about Costa Rica, which we're always happy to do. Costa Rica hasn't had diving for a very long period of time. I went down in 1970. And there was absolutely no diving. There was no dive shop. There was no tanks or anything in the country to go diving. I had a little dive operation in Key Largo, and I was working as an instructor in Miami. So I saw the opportunity. So I got equipment and went back to Costa Rica. And this was in 1970. And we started diving on the Caribbean side. And there was no boats or anything, so I had to get a dugout canoe and put a 25 horsepower Evinrude motor on it. And we started the diving on the Caribbean side. But it didn't take long for us to realize that was not the best side. So we moved over to the Pacific. And in the meantime, we started the first professional dive shop in Costa Rica and in San Pedro by the university. And so we were doing our checkout dives over on the Pacific side and found that the tremendous amount of marine life. And over there was the place we wanted to dive. Plus, we could dive 365 days a year because we had no runoff in the Gulf of Papagayo. And that was something that was a problem over on the Caribbean side. And we had no hurricanes there because we're below the 10-degree line. It was just an ideal situation for us. And so we started the diving, we started bringing people down. And as we brought people down, we found there was a lot more to do in Costa Rica. So in around 1978, a friend of mine started the river rafting. And we added that on. In 85, we added zip lining as it just, it was pioneered in Costa Rica. And then we had the hot springs. A friend of mine, Jaime Mikowski, started the Tabacón Hot Springs, which is world famous now. And so we started sending people over to Jaime and going in the hot springs and then the mud baths. And just one thing led to another. We started waterfall rappelling. So what we've done now is taken scuba diving and added a complete adventure package. We can do anything that you want to do and add it to your dive package. It's perfect for the non-divers, and we get a lot of groups that are partial divers and partial non-divers, and we have something for everyone. Even for the kids, we have surfing lessons, and we can teach them how to dive if they don't already dive. And but we trained a lot of people. We trained the original dive masters when they started up the program for the Cocos Islands. And I'm sure many of you have been to the Cocos Islands. I know Petra sends a lot of people there. It just so happens that we do all the pre and post tours for the boats that go to Cocos Islands. So if anything that you see here, that if you're going to Cocos Islands, you can still do with us either before or after your Cocos Island trip. One thing that impressed me about Petra is they got a combined 70 years. And I can tell you this, that I have 50 years in Costa Rica. Nadine has 30 years and Vanessa has 20. So we have 100 years of experience. And not that I want to top Petra, but think about this, combined, we have 170 years of experience. So I think you can feel safe to go with all of us. And
you're in good hands. You're getting your travel designed by divers for divers all across the board, from your accommodation to your diving to even your non-diving activities. You're thought of along the way. So it's really dive travel for divers. So with that said, the Bill Beard experience, like Petra said, is really something that offers divers. It's a unique experience. Packages throughout the country for divers and non-divers. We're not married to any hotel or dive operator. So we're constantly vetting our providers to make sure that they're offering the best experience for our clients. So you're in good hands when you're traveling with Fly and Sea Dive Adventures as well as Bill Beard. So we'll jump into, I'm sure a lot of you have a question about traveling to Costa Rica and abroad during COVID. So first of all, our first question is always, is travel allowed? Right now, yes, our borders have been open fully since November 1st, and we've been starting to welcome our first round of divers and non-divers back in the country since then. Movement is still slow. Many of the accommodations and resorts are reporting maybe 20 or 30% occupancy rates right now. So, if you are traveling, you're probably going to see quite a few less people than you would typically throughout the year. What are the entry requirements as of now? Currently, to enter Costa Rica, no COVID test is required, but there is a mandatory travel insurance that you can either buy through the Costa Rican government or an international provider. We have several recommendations, as well as Petra, I'm sure. And that coverage has to have medical expenses for at least $50,000 if you buy external, not in Costa Rica. And you have to have a minimum of $2,000 for extended lodging expenses in case you do get COVID or one of your family members does as well. And the second requirement is that you need to fill out a health pass within 48 hours of travel. This is a very simple health pass. It's very straightforward, but you do need to fill it out. And what will happen is you'll generate a Q code, and you'll need that Q code throughout the boarding the airplane as well as coming into the country. That just verifies to the local authorities that you have bought your health insurance and that you have reported all of your information, so they have it on file. Another question that has recently popped up since the January 26 requirement for testing coming back into the United States or Canada. The PCR testing is currently available at most of the locations where we operate. The current cost, because right now we only have the PCR test, which is between $100 and $180, depending on your location. On January 19th, the Costa Rican government approved the use of the rapid test. So I think in the next maybe 3 to 5 weeks, we're going to see a lot of the locations having this test available and a much quicker turnaround than our current 24 to 48 hours. And we'll hopefully see a huge reduction in costs. The Costa Rican government and the tourism board is saying that we'll probably see testing costs between $35 and maybe $60. So that's great news. So let's jump into why Costa Rica. So Costa Rica is an incredibly tourist-friendly country. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about the nature here. We have wildlife, flora and fauna so it's a very eco-rich country as well. Tons of marine life. We have Pacific side diving, and it's all about the marine life. You see huge schools of fish, sharks, turtles, rays, whale migration. So lots of marine life. Tons of adventures as well. You can definitely fill your mornings with diving and your afternoons with some adventure, such as canopy or ATVs. Quite easy to get to from most US as well as Canadian ports. We are, I would say, within a 3 to 5 hour direct flight. And with some layovers, I would say on average, maybe about 8 hours to get down here if you do have a layover as well. So it's quite easy to get to as well. Lots of great cultural experiences. This is one of the most great coffee growing countries in the world. So there's a lot of culture. You get to learn the friendly people. And again, Pura Vida. You've probably heard this saying once or twice. That's kind of the catchphrase for Costa Rica, and it really embodies the spirit and the welcoming attitude foreigners and guests that the Costa Ricans have. So Pura Vida. So there's 2 airports, international airports that divers and guests can fly into. The San Jose Airport, located in the center of the country, is our main airport, but we also have the Liberia Airport, which a lot of our divers fly in and out of because of ease of one of our main dive locations, which is in the Pacific Northwest. So I would say if you're coming to dive in Costa Rica, I'd say 80 to 90% of our divers do fly into the Liberia Airport, because it's only about a 35 to 45 minute drive over to most dive locations. So that's one we definitely recommend. And I believe WestJet, there's several carriers, and there's tons of flights right now that are coming into Liberia and also San Jose. So it's quite easy to get in, and we're seeing more flights being added almost daily. So most of the land-based scuba diving in Costa Rica is done, again, on the Pacific shores. So scuba diving in Cocos Islands is done via liveaboard. And nearly all of the diving that's done in Costa Rica is around volcanic rock formations and pinnacles where the marine life's hanging out. Most of our mainland diving offers 2-tank boat dives, and most dive sites are located usually between 15 and 20 minutes offshore, with a few more long-range dives also available at some locations. So where should you dive in Costa Rica? We're going to focus on 2 main areas today, but I did want to touch a little bit. So I would say 80 to 90% of our divers who will be coming to Costa Rica that don't come to Cocos are going to be diving up here in the Pacific Northwest. So there's 2 main areas. One is near Playa Hermosa and one's down by Flamingo. There we'll get into a little bit more of what diving looks like. And as you see here, right here is the Liberia Airport, and that's where most of our divers, so it's a really quick trip over. Another area that we also dive from is down here in the Corcovado National Park. And there's a national park called the Caño Island, which is a marine park and also a wonderful place to dive. A little bit more logistics in getting down there, and sometimes it does require a small airplane. So works a little bit more for fits rather than some of our group travel. So we're going to start out with Cocos Island. I know you can book liveaboards with Petra and her team. It's one of the most sought out dive locations in Costa Rica, and it's about 300 miles southwest of the Pacific side of Costa Rica, and this is one of the national parks. It is also a World Heritage Site, and it's really the crown jewel of the national park system in Costa Rica. Trip logistics, as mentioned, the only way to see Cocos Island is on a diving liveaboard vessel, and it departs from Punta Arenas. Liveaboard trips usually last for about 8 to 10 days, and the crossing's a little long. It's about 36 hours to reach Cocos Islands for the crossing, but once you're there, it's definitely worth it. Because of heavy currents and surges, it's a little bit more recommended for more advanced divers, or at least people that have a little bit more experience under their belts. Again, the dive sites usually consist of those volcanic pinnacles and seamounts which rise up from the ocean floor. So Cocos Island, exploring Cocos Island. So as you know, you've probably seen this in the past, but it's really known for its large schools of hammerheads, which really draw divers in. There are huge populations of other marine species as well, which really ranks it as one of the top 5 destinations for diving in the world. Rays, sharks, as well as a ton of different species of whales, dolphins, even whale sharks make appearances. The island is uninhabited besides a few park guards. And it's completely off limits for fishing because it is a national park. So this really allows the marine life to flourish in this protected area. Bill mentioned before, we also do a lot of the pre and post extensions, and this is actually coming in a little bit more, and we've seen people extend their Cocos Islands trip just in the past month or so as the testing is needed as well. So it's a great idea to maybe tag on a few days before or a few days after to allow that testing time as well. We can do like a 2-night extension to the RNL Volcano to see those hot springs and that dramatic landmark volcano. We also do some spotlight trips that maybe combine a couple different regions, such as the Monteverde cloud forest and the RNL volcano, or maybe over to the other coast, to the Tortuguero canals, where we have the wildlife boat cruises and sea turtle nestings. Really, all of the trips are full of the land-based wildlife, which is just as amazing as the marine wildlife. So after Cocos, again, probably 80 or 90% of our divers are going to be diving on the Pacific coast, and with the main region being in Guanacaste. So our diving seasons, we have 2 seasons in Costa Rica. We've got the dry season, and then we also have the rainy season, which the ICT, the Costa Rican government, deemed as the green season in a marketing campaign, but it's really true. It's a lot greener as well. Our favorite time is actually during the rainy season between May and November. I don't want people to be scared off by the rainy seasons. We usually have really great mornings, sunny, and then maybe a rainstorm in the afternoon from May to mid-September. Rains do increase in October. That's probably going to be our rainiest month. And then they start to diminish again in November. So those are when we also, our nutrient surges off the Pacific coast are when attract the bull sharks from the Bat Islands from May to November. And then the polar currents bring the mantas to the Catalina Islands from January to April, cooler water months as well. Divers are going to experience warm water and ocean temps of about 23 degrees Celsius to about 29 from May to November. Then we get an influx of cooler water from December to April, and our average temperatures are about 20 degrees Celsius to 25. So it does drop quite a bit. Seasonal air temperatures along the coast really range from about 27 degrees Celsius, 25 to 27 in the green season. And then it can get quite hot in our dry season, up to 35, 36 degrees Celsius. A little bit about visibility. Because our waters are very nutrient rich, we might not have that 100-foot visibility that you might experience in some of the Caribbean island destinations. But the trade-off is that the amazing marine life, as you see in this picture, you're swimming through huge schools, and Nadine likes to say universities of fish. So we really have a wide range of visibility, but that doesn't affect your quality of diving because you're almost always guaranteed amazing and dynamic marine life. Visibility can range from all the way from 30 meters to 5 meters. And it can even switch when you're on the dive, or even from dive to dive. So again, the water is very rich with nutrients, and that is what is attracting our amazing marine life and huge schools of fish and rays. The 3 areas that most of our divers dive in are the Gulf of Papagayo, the Catalina Islands, and then the Bat Islands. The Gulf of Papagayo has about 20 different dive sites, again, submerged pinnacles, really packed full of life. And most of those are about a quick 10 to 20-minute boat ride offshore. Eagle rays, cownose rays, jacks, snappers, grunts, puffers, white tip reef sharks are really common sightings in the Gulf of Papagayo and along the coast in Catalinas and Bats. The Catalina Islands is located near the Flamingo. So if you're staying in one of our locations like Margaritaville at Playa Flamingo, or maybe Baja de Sol, or even if you're down in Tamarindo, then you're going to probably be diving in the Catalina Islands. This is a series of 20 or so small islands, and it's also a cleaning station for the mantas that are often show up right now, actually, when we're in the Canadian and US winter months. Also stingrays, bat rays, devil rays, lots of different marine life that you're seeing here. And again, this is kind of a great spot to see the Pacific giant mantas, which can be seen all year, but they're most common from about November until April. We often refer to it as called the bats, but this is really some world-class diving, and it's really high voltage diving. A popular dive site is called the Big Scare, and this is where divers can dive with the bull sharks. Best time to visit Bat Islands is May to November, and that's when we have calmer waters to make the crossing as well. So we don't chum the water. This is just natural setting and where you can see the bull shark. So it's a really amazing experience. We do recommend for more advanced divers as well, the Bat Island. So what do you see? I know I mentioned a few things, but it's a place to dive if you want to see a lot of fish. Dive sites are a wide variety of marine life. We have the snappers, the moray eels, spotted eagle rays, octopus, angelfish, again, the giant manta rays as well, sea turtles, seahorses are also common. Again, the Bat Islands are with the bull sharks as well. That can get up to about 11 feet or way up to 700 pounds. And then we also have 2 whale migrations from August to November and then to December to March as well. So we'll get into that in just a sec. So the humpback whales visit Costa Rican warm waters, making their trek the 1,000 miles from Antarctica to mate and birth in the warm waters, shallow waters off of our coast. That's from August to November. And then in January to March, we have a little bit smaller, but another whale migration of the humpbacks from the north to escape the Arctic. We love diving in August, September. That's a great month to see the whales. Yesterday, we've got some great pictures of this same whale tail that they saw tons of whales and dolphins diving just out yesterday. So they're here visiting again. Along Costa Rican's coast, we've got thousands of miles of coastline. However, there's a few pockets where our divers are recommended to stay just because that's where our best diving is offered and the logistics for offering diving from those locations is best. So these are some of our top picks for some of our dive hotels that we offer. There are several others, but these are the ones that we think work the best for our dive groups and also our FITs. So we've got the Occidental Papagayo. This is an all-inclusive, adult-only location. It's got about 163 rooms, and it's kind of located near Playa Hermosa. The diving that you'd be doing from the Occidental Papagayo is from the Gulf of Papagayo. So from there, you can actually get to the Bat Islands as well, and you can also upgrade to go to Catalinas as well. So we like this hotel. It's got a great price point, great value, and it's a great location for our divers. If you want a little bit more upscale experience, but you still want that all-inclusive adult only, there's also the Secrets Papagayo, which one of our beautiful luxury vacation locations. Slightly larger property with about 202 rooms. Again, diving is done locally at the Papagayo Gulf. And as you can see, it's just got, it's a very luxurious property. Got these cabinas all dotted through the forest there, and its own kind of private beach as well. So we love the Secrets Papagayo. One of our favorites, and my favorites, is also the more boutique Boque de Mar property. This is located directly on the Playa Hermosa beach. It's just a small property with only about 32 rooms. It does offer breakfast daily, and again, the diving's from Gulf of Papagayo as well. As you can see, we love this property because you really are just enveloped in nature there. Their freestanding accommodations are beautifully done in wood, and you just have a more intimate feel, and the staff here is really wonderful. This is also a beachfront property as well. The Via Sol is one of our longest running properties. In fact, Bill and Nadine actually had the dive shop running out of this hotel for several years. This is an all-inclusive property, and it's a more value option. We love this property because, as you can see from these people eating here, it's kind of $1 million view. It is perched up a little bit on the hill, so you get this amazing view. It is still a beachfront property, but you do have to do a little bit walk down to the beach. But we love this property. It has 2 pools, all inclusive, and again, there's nothing beats having your morning coffee with that $1 million view. The Casa de Del Mar. This is located in Playa Panama. Diving will be done in the Gulf of Papagayo, so you can do local as well as upgrade to Catalinas and do the Bat Islands from there. Typically, the Casa del Mar is a all-inclusive property. However, this year they were closed up until January. They just reopened. And for 2021, they're going to be only doing breakfast only. They do have an on-site restaurant, so you can get food, but they will return to their all-inclusive option starting in January of 2022 as well. So this is a wonderful property. It's got 2 great pools. It is a beachfront property. It's no hills as well. So if you have some knee problems, this is actually a great property because you won't be doing the hill walks as much. And we really like this for divers. There's only 50 rooms, so it does have that intimate feel as well. The Margaritaville. This is actually located a little bit south in Playa Flamingo. So as mentioned, where you'd be diving from this location is the Catalina Islands. And that'd be where you'll be doing all of your diving from there. From this location, it is a bit more difficult to get up to Bats because of the distance, but the Catalina offers some great diving there. The Margaritaville was just refurbished. It changed from the Playa Flamingo Hotel to the Margaritaville about a couple years ago. And I've stayed there several times, and the service is excellent. You can have a breakfast daily or also an all-inclusive option. So that's a great choice, especially if you have some, you couldn't decide. So that's a wonderful option for guests that they can either have the breakfast or do an all-inclusive. And it's just got a real good, fresh feel as well. Again, as you can see, this is a beachfront property, and there's nothing that beats the sunset, sitting out here on the beach and watching the sunset. Another property fairly close to Margaritaville is the Baja de Sol. This is in Playa Portero. This has got breakfast daily. It's a 35 rooms as well. So it's a small property as well, beachfront. And again, you'll be diving from the Catalina Islands as well. One of our more value properties over in Playa Hermosa is the Villa de Sueno. This one is breakfast as well. We've got 43 rooms, and it's a little bit more colonial feel, not quite beachfront, but about a minute walk from the beach. Great rooms, a couple pools as well. So if you're looking for a good value location, don't want to spend a lot, this is a really great property to stay at. And then our last one is at the Hotel Colono. This is located, if you're looking for a place that's a little more centered, this is directly located in Playa de Coco, so very close walking distance to several restaurants, shops, and nightlife. Well, not too much nightlife right now, but as we get over COVID, then things will start to pick up. But great location right in the center. Our dive shop is located actually on site as well. So it's very convenient and it's got a great price point. So the Hotel Colono is a wonderful option as well if you're looking to save a little bit. And then, as Petra mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about other things in Costa Rica, because that's the beauty of Costa Rica. It's not just exclusively for divers. We do cater to a lot of those mixed marriages with divers, non-divers as well. And that's the beauty of it. You can really include everybody in your dive trip because there's something to do for everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about other locations in Costa Rica in case you wanted to do a dive and adventure trip, maybe 7 days of diving, then head over to the RNL Volcano or one of our other spots. So there's lots to see and do both above and below the water. We spoke about the beaches of Guanacaste. There's several other locations as well, but some of our best beaches are up in the Guanacaste region. And again, favored by scuba divers, also surfers. If we head a little bit south to the Nakoya Peninsula, this is really small town surfing culture, and it's got pristine beaches. And this is a great option for those looking to kind of get away from it all, unplug. Really, this area is known for a lot of yoga retreats. It's also for the turtle nesting with Las Baulas National Marine Park. And then also the olive bridley turtles with the aribatas. You've probably seen those huge migrations of turtles that come up on the beach sometimes. Those are monthly aribatas when they are coming up, and that's in the Occidental National Wildlife Refuge. This is really an international or a destination that is really focused on wellness and yoga retreats. So it's a great place to, as this woman is doing, pull up a hammock and get out your book. Almost all of our visitors who combine their dive vacations make a stop to the RNL Volcano. And that's where I am actually sitting in right now. That's where our main office is located. It is one of the most important tourist destinations in Costa Rica. Because of this principal attraction, the iconic RNL Volcano. And you can kind of see it from almost any landscape you're in. So it's a beautiful backdrop to every day you're visiting here. This is an adventure hub. So we have tons of wild rafting trips. We've got rappelling down waterfalls, hiking, biking, horsebacking. You can make your way through Costa Rica on any of those modes of transportation. And then at the end of the day, you can always relax in one of the many volcanic heated hot springs as well. So one of my favorite locations, and it's not just because I live here, but it's got a lot to see and do as well. And it's a great combo trip with our dive trips. The Monteverde Cloud Forest. So you are going to feel like you're on top of the world when you reach the cloud forest. It's situated about 1,440 meters above sea level, and it's perched on the continental divide. So the weather here is really influenced by a mix of dry Pacific and warm, wet Caribbean winds. And this creates a constant source of moisture, which fuels this unique habitat. The mountain town, this was founded by Quakers who came in the 50s to kind of look for a more peaceful lifestyle. So they settled and developed the area, made a reserve, which they use to protect their watershed. And also started a cheese factory. So that's still going. And the Quakers are still very active. It kind of has a Wild West feel, and it's really an eclectic mix of farmers, artists, nature lovers, scientists, and outdoor enthusiasts. The Tanario Celestia River, you've probably seen pictures of this river that's got this blue hue to it. This is blue hue. The myth goes that when God was finished painting the sky, he dipped his paintbrushes in the river and it created this beautiful celestial blue hue. Scientists like to think it's has to do with the minerals in the volcanic runoff, but I'll go with the first one. I like that story a lot. Great hiking in this area, and as you see, very dense rainforest as well. We're going to travel down south a little bit over here to the Central Pacific, and that's Manuel Antonio. Beautiful area, really oceanside villages, mix of extravagant luxury condos and cozy hideaway hotels. Very easy to see monkeys there. The Osa Peninsula as well in the Corcovado. National Geographic has dubbed this as Costa Rica's southern Pacific coast is one of the most biologically intense places on Earth. The peninsula juts from the sea, and it's flanked by the Drake Bay to the north, the Pacific Ocean to the west, and the Golfo de Dulce to the east. So it's really a beautiful, secluded, natural wonderland. We can see the tapirs there, the flocks of the scarlet macaws, as you see there. And it's really unspoiled beauty and this protected grounds in the Corcovado National Park. I'm going to flip over to the Caribbean side. As mentioned before, Tortuguero. This is a national park that stretches over 19,000 hectares of land and over 50,000 kilometers of sea. Includes these Amazon-like canals through the natural rivers and lagoons. This is once a logging and fishing outpost, but it gained international recognition for its conservation project aimed at protecting the marine turtles, which is now one of the biggest draws is seeing those nesting sea turtles from usually July to October. We just got the chance to go in September, and we saw tons of them. It was a great experience. Down to the Southern Caribbean, this is one of the region's main seaside towns, and it's really got strong Afro-Caribbean feel. So as soon as you arrive, you'll quickly fall into the relaxed vibe of the slow pace of the area. This is a little bit less developed infrastructure and dotted with small villas and bungalows rather than kind of the more developed Pacific side. Beautiful location. It does have some diving, but conditions are a little bit less consistent. And it's not going to be that visibility and beautiful corals that you'd see in other typical Caribbean destinations. So we really prefer our Pacific diving. And then lastly, we've got the Central Valley. If you do have to fly into San Jose, there are, it's one of our capital, probably 60% of the population lives there. Outside of San Jose, it's really got the essence of those small communities that dot around the Central Valley and coffee country within about an hour. So there's lots to see and do from the country's capital as well. So that kind of covers this. We are here to really make a travel itinerary that makes sense. Costa Rica might seem like a small country, but don't let that fool you. There's a lot. It can take a long time to get from one location to the next. So that's where we come in with Petra to really make an itinerary that makes sense for you as a diver or a non-diver, and making sure we maximize your time and budget the best fit. That kind of covers me. I'll give it back to Petra, and we can open up to any questions that people have with the last little bit of time we've got.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Does that not want to make you pack your bags and go? I think it should, right? Yes, absolutely. So I am going to open it up. If you have questions that we have not yet covered, would you just put them in the chat, and we're going to answer them as much as we can. There was one question directly to me asked about what it takes to become a diver and what qualifications there are necessary. So technically, anybody age 10 and up can become a diver. You should be comfortable in the water. That would be important. But after that, you do need to fill out a health questionnaire. So if you've got any health concerns, you should talk to your doctor. But if you're not sure if you want to get certified, which is what these dives are all geared towards, certified divers, you can try out what's called a Discover Scuba dive experience. And Vanessa and Bill and their team can certainly set that up for you when you're there. So once you are certified, there is different levels. And like Vanessa said, there is some areas where you should be an advanced diver. But as soon as you're certified, you can go on a lot of these dives. So that definitely is a question that should be easy to answer. If you know that you do want to get certified, we always recommend that you talk to a local dive shop here in either Canada or the US. And we have lots of partnerships with dive shops that we can hook you up with.
So our water temperatures are, again, probably a 3 millimeter suit is what you use almost all year round. During our cooler water, some people could do up to a 5 millimeter if you tend to dive cold, or maybe dive with a 3 millimeter and either a vest or a hoodie if it all depends on where you're coming from, obviously, but I'd say on average 3 millimeter works fine. And then adding on those accessories if you tend to dive cold. We do have some thermoclines as you go to depth. So you can kind of pass through those and get a little chilly, but they usually pass quite quickly. So on average, about a 3 millimeter suit is what works well. In our warmer weather months, some people dive with a shorty, or I know Bill and Nadine, when they come sometimes in August, are diving with just skin suits. So the water can get quite warm during the US and Canadian summer months as well. So
do you have any birding trips? Is another question.
Lots of birding trips. Yeah, all throughout the country, you're going to be able to see many different, and depending on the region, many different bird species. And at each of the locations, we've got bird naturalists. The guides here are amazing, and they're studying constantly. So it's very easy to match you up with a bird specialist as well. So if you're coming here for birding, we can do a combination dive and birding trip and make it a real custom vacation for you. But birding everywhere, even if you're in a hotel, I mean, we put out, we've got tons of birds even where I live every morning. So yes, lots of birding opportunities throughout the country, not just in one specific location.
There's a question, Vanessa, about dive depths too, and it's a really great location. Costa Rica is for beginner divers, because the average depth on the second dive is probably 40 foot, but where you can see turtles, rays, sharks, massive schools of fish. So it's really, the average dive profile is 80-foot dive for 30 minutes on the first dive. And then, of course, you multi-level and you get a little more time. And then 60 foot for 30 or 40 minutes, or 40 feet for 60 minutes.
The recompression chamber, are those? Or
the closest one is in San Jose at this time. That's manned. There is one in Liberia, but it is unmanned at this time.
Nitrox available?
Yes, at some locations, nitrox is available in the Guanacaste region mostly. If you go to some of our other locations and throughout the Pacific coast, it's not available at all locations. But if you're driving in the Guanacaste region, yes, it is available. And it's usually around $10 per tank.
And rebreather diving, check diving?
Yeah, some locations are capable of hosting rebreathers. So, but I believe you will need to bring down some of the cleaning agents that aren't available in Costa Rica. So, but yes, we are capable of managing rebreathers.
Okay, this is a question. Is it realistic to plan an end-to-end tour of Costa Rica in conjunction with a dive vacation? If so, how many days should the itinerary be? And are there tour operators who would provide drivers and guides? So I know that answer, but like how many days, Vanessa, do you think?
I'll say a month or two, but that's just my preference. But I would say on average, especially if we have some dive vacations that are 7 days that are a combination, where you do maybe 4 days over diving and then maybe 3 days over at the Monteverde and RNL volcano. Yeah, it might be a little rushed, but we can do it in a short amount of time of 7 days. If you want to see more, I would say 10 days would be amazing. If you could do 2 weeks, you could really fit quite a bit in. And yes, Private drivers are arranged by us. We've got amazing drivers that are naturalist guides as well, so they do a lot of stopping. So yes to all of that. But I'd say a great time would be 10 days if you want to see a lot more of the country.
Is there shore diving anywhere?
No, there is not.
Okay.
Common seas are May to November. Because when the rains come, they're just slight rains. They lay down the silt, make it sometimes a little bit clearer, and it's definitely calmer. From January through March, you have winds that give you not huge seas, but swells of probably 6 to 10 inches, where you won't have that in that May to November. You won't have anything. But I mean, people actually water ski on the Pacific Ocean.
And that probably also ties into, somebody asked that 36-hour crossing to Cocos, what that is like. Well, that depends on the time of year, right?
Yes, for sure.
It does. But we went one time in August.
August is probably the best month in my opinion.
Calm.
It's pretty calm because in the rainy season, the seas get really warm and they're flat calm. And it's a beautiful time. I love July, August, September like that because, and I use a half mil and it gets warm sometimes at 60, 70 feet. If you're unzipping your half mil just to cool off a little bit.
And somebody's asking what the current situation in the country is with COVID there. Lots of cases or.
We've been very, Costa Rica, we've been very kind of stable where we've had kind of the same amount of cases almost daily since July, averaging about 1,000 per day. We haven't seen a lot of movement other than that. So it's been pretty stable since July. People here, and especially in the hotels and the tourist locations, there will be a lot of mask wearing. There's a lot of controls in terms of if you're in transportation vehicles, always wearing masks. So people are listening and following a lot of the health instructions given by the government and social distancing. And there's a really huge campaign for that here. I've done quite a bit of traveling since COVID here in country just to kind of get a feel of what it's like. And everywhere that I've gone, I felt very comfortable. I've always been able to socially distance from people, always because a lot of the hotels aren't at capacity right now. Always mask wearing in public areas. But we haven't lost the magic of being in the country. So it's I feel like people are doing a very good job at it here. And our numbers, again, have been pretty stable, as well as our ICU units. So I feel pretty good about it here.
And the tours, the boats and the buses, they are required to have fewer people.
Yes. Yeah. There's quite a few restrictions on, each one's a little bit different, but managing 50% capacity or 60%. So there's a lot of rules and regulations about operating right now that we need to follow. Okay, good. And I'm assuming that you can arrange rental gear. Somebody asked that question. Oh yes, yeah. Most of the diving locations will all include obviously weights, tanks, and belts, and then any diving gear after that can be rented either a full package or a la carte as well.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds perfect for 6 weeks, September, October. I like that comment, Gary.
A couple months, no problem. Just do a little teletrabajo here. Right. We're working remotely and
yeah. So I think I'm going to stop the Q&A here. We do want to sort of look at the 1 hour time frame, and we still do have some fun to do because we ended the Q&A. But as some of you maybe have already seen, there is a prize to be won. Thank you to Bill Beards and their team. Well, they are giving us a prize of 3 nights at the Occidental Papagayo for 2 people, all inclusive, with a day of diving and a zipline tour. And so that is good for travel in 2021. So the way I'm going to do this, some of you have maybe been on this already with us, that I am going to pull up everybody who registered here today. And then we're using a random number generator. And I have, let's see here, 80 people in here. So we are going to plug in from 1 to 80. Number 2. Ooh, now we're getting up there. Wolfgang Troutman, are you still here? There you go. Congratulations, Wolfgang. You have won this. And so we will get in touch with you. We have your email address. And so that is fabulous. Congratulations. With that, we're going to end our presentation in 2 weeks, same time, same place, your couch or wherever you are. We're going to travel to Curacao in the Caribbean, and it will be a similar presentation, not one single operator, but more of a country overview with the various areas of the dive sites. And we now actually have these webinars on our website. If you go to the Dive Travel 101 page, there's a link. There's also a link from our homepage to it. And so you can look up, we're going to have a schedule there until early May, every other week. And then you will be able to dream about dive destinations that you can hopefully book with us sometime later in the year, whenever you start feeling comfortable to travel. So thank you very much for everyone who was on this. Vanessa and Bill and Nadine, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate your generosity of your time and the prize and your knowledge. I hope to see all of you soon again. So we will be in touch for Wolfgang and for future bookings with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.